Waverly Hills Sanatorium, the Hill of the Whispering Dead. They called it a place of healing, but it became a graveyard for the living. Perched on a lonely Kentucky hill, Waverly Hills Sanatorium was meant to save lives, but instead, it became a house of death. From the moment the gates opened in the early 1900s, the sound of coughing filled the air like a haunting symphony. Tuberculosis, the White Plague, had swept through America, and Waverly was built as a last refuge for the hopeless. Patients arrived by the hundreds, gasping for breath, believing that sunlight, fresh air, and rest could cure them. But there were no cures then, only suffering, isolation, and slow, painful death. In the early mornings, a thick mist would roll across the hillside, carrying with it the echo of cries from the open windows. Inside, rows of pale faces lay under white sheets, their eyes hollow, their chests rattling with every breath. Nurses whispered prayers, while the doctors smiled with empty hope. And yet, behind those smiles, they knew the truth. Once you entered Waverly Hills, you almost never left alive. As days turned to months, and months into years, death became routine. The morgue overflowed. The living shared hallways with the dead. To keep the despair from spreading, the hospital found a grim solution: a tunnel, a long concrete shaft leading from the basement, stretching 500 feet down the hill. It was built for supplies, but it became something far darker: the body chute. Every night, carts would roll down that tunnel, carrying the lifeless bodies of those who didn't make it. The staff called it the death tunnel. The patients called it the last ride. Many said the living could hear the wheels rolling, echoing through the walls, a sound that meant another soul was leaving Waverly forever. "Don't listen to it," one nurse would whisper to her patients. "It'll take your hope away." But the sound was constant, and the hope slowly died with it. The hospital's walls witnessed horrors beyond sickness. Some spoke of strange experiments: lungs inflated until they burst, ribs cracked open in desperate attempts to force in air. The treatments were brutal, the pain unending. And as the years passed, even the doctors began to lose faith. One nurse, known only as Mary, worked in room 502. She had seen too much, too many deaths, too many nights alone with the dying. One morning, the staff found her hanging from a light fixture, her lifeless body swaying gently in the cold wind that seeped through the cracked window. No note, no explanation, just silence and the faint smell of disinfectant. After that day, room 502 was never the same. Patients claimed they heard her sobbing at night, whispering apologies. Some nurses refused to enter the room at all. "She's still here," one worker said, "still trying to care for the dead." But Mary wasn't the only soul that stayed behind. In the children's ward, nurses began to report strange occurrences: the sound of laughter, the faint squeak of a rubber ball rolling down the hallway. When they followed the sound, the ball would stop and roll back as if pushed by invisible hands. They said it was Timmy, a young boy who died there, still playing, still waiting for someone to join his game. Visitors today bring him toys and small rubber balls, and sometimes those toys move on their own. By the time antibiotics were discovered in the 1940s, Waverly Hills had claimed tens of thousands of lives. The exact number remains unknown. Some say 6,000, others whisper 63,000. When the hospital finally shut its doors, the walls stood silent, stained with decades of sorrow. But even after death, Waverly refused to sleep. Decades later, When the building reopened for tours, those who dared to enter said the air felt heavy, thick with pain. Flashlights flickered. Footsteps echoed in empty corridors. In the old operating room, people heard the sound of gurneys rolling and faint moans coming from nowhere. One visitor swore she felt a cold hand grab her arm and pull her backward. When she turned, no one was there. Another man heard a voice whisper right next to his ear, "Help me breathe." At night, the shadow figures come out. Long, thin silhouettes glide along the walls. They dart between doorways, vanish at the edge of flashlight beams. Paranormal investigators have captured full-bodied apparitions, heard screams through static, and recorded whispers begging for release. Some say if you stand near the body chute at midnight, you can hear the squeak of the old cartwheels, rolling endlessly as if the dead are still being taken away. Waverly Hills stands today as a crumbling monument to despair, a shell filled with memories too heavy to die. The windows are broken, the walls covered in mold, but the energy, it lingers. Tour guides say that when you walk those empty halls, you can feel hundreds of eyes watching you from the shadows. Some leave crying, others refuse to speak of what they saw. There's one final story of a caretaker who once locked up late at night. As he turned off the lights, he heard someone whisper, "Don't leave us." He laughed it off and walked toward the door. Then he felt a hand, small, cold, grab his wrist. When he looked down, there was no one there. The next morning, he quit, said he'd never set foot inside again. And maybe he's right to stay away, because Waverly Hills isn't just haunted, it's alive, a breathing, restless reminder of a time when hope and horror shared the same bed. The laughter of a dead child, the sobs of a broken nurse, the endless echo of the body chute, rolling, rolling, rolling. They say the dead can't speak, but at Waverly Hills, they never stopped. The Winchester Mystery House, the mansion that never slept. They say grief can make people do strange things. But what Sarah Winchester did went far beyond strange. It became a legend, a mansion of madness that still stands today. A labyrinth built not for the living, but for the dead. It all began in 1881. Sarah Winchester, wife of William Winchester, heir to the Winchester Repeating Arms Company, had everything, wealth, beauty, and love. But one by one, everything she cherished was taken from her. First, her infant daughter, Annie, died in her arms from a mysterious illness. Then, only a few years later, her husband fell gravely ill and passed away. The silence of her empty home swallowed her whole. She began to wonder if she was cursed. Each night, she sat alone in the dark, clutching her baby's rattle and whispering into the emptiness, "Why did you take them from me?" Sometimes she swore she heard whispers answering, soft, echoing voices that didn't belong to the living. The ticking of the grandfather clock grew louder each night, like a heartbeat reminding her she was still here. And they were not. Desperate for peace, she turned to the supernatural. One foggy night, Sarah visited a well-known spiritual medium. The séance room was dim, candles flickering against the crimson wallpaper. The medium took Sarah's trembling hands, closed her eyes, and began to whisper. The air thickened. The flames danced wildly. When the medium finally spoke, her voice had changed. It was deeper, distorted, as though something else spoke through her. "You are cursed, Mrs. Winchester," the voice said. cursed by the spirits of those killed by the Winchester rifle, the weapon that brought your family fortune and their misery. These souls will never rest. They will find you, unless... Sarah's voice cracked. Unless what? The medium's head tilted sharply, her eyes rolling white. You must leave your home. Travel west. Build a house for the spirits. Keep building and never stop. For as long as the hammer falls, you will be safe. But if you stop, they will claim you. Sarah didn't hesitate. Within weeks, she sold her home and moved to the far edge of the country, to San Jose, California. There, surrounded by fields and fog, she began to build, and she never stopped. Day and night, hammers rang through the air. Workers came in shifts, building and rebuilding, following Sarah's strange instructions. She offered no blueprints, no explanations. Just keep building, she would say. They must never find me. What rose from her grief was a mansion unlike any other, a sprawling, twisting maze of confusion, staircases that led straight into ceilings, doors that opened into walls, windows staring into empty rooms, a hallway that looped endlessly back to where it began. When workers asked why, Sarah only whispered, "Because they're watching." Years turned into decades. The mansion grew. 160 rooms, 47 fireplaces, 10,000 windows. Sarah never allowed construction to stop. Even in the dead of night, hammers rang like ghostly heartbeats, echoing across the dark California hills. She believed if she kept building, the spirits would remain lost within her maze, unable to find her, unable to take her. But as the house grew, so did the whispers. Workers reported strange occurrences, footsteps in empty hallways, cold hands brushing their shoulders, distant crying echoing through the vents. Some refused to stay after dark. They claimed to see figures watching from the upper windows, even when Sarah was asleep. Inside her home, Sarah kept to herself. Dressed always in black, she wandered the candlelit halls, her frail hands clutching a small brass key. She was said to hold nightly séances. Each morning, she'd tell the foreman their instructions. Add a staircase here, seal that door, build another room there. One carpenter once asked, "Mrs. Winchester, what are we building?" She looked up, eyes hollow and tired. A place for the dead to rest, and for me to hide. The number 13 consumed her. 13 windows in one room, 13 steps in a staircase. Even her chandelier had 13 candles. She believed it was her protection, a way to confuse and ward off the restless souls. But the deeper she built into the house, the deeper she seemed to descend into her own madness. Sometimes, workers would find her standing motionless at the end of a hallway, whispering to the air, "I know you're here. Please, just let me finish." And sometimes, they swore they heard a reply, a faint voice saying, "You can't build your way out of death, Sarah." Decades passed. Her hair turned silver, her hands frail, yet she never stopped. The sound of construction became her lullaby. Until one night, September 5th, 1922, the hammering finally ceased. Sarah Winchester had died quietly in her sleep. The moment the news spread, the workers dropped their tools. For the first time in 38 years, the mansion fell silent. But some say it never truly rested. When visitors entered the home in the years after, they described a heavy sadness that clung to the air. Rooms felt colder than they should. Doors creaked open on their own. Footsteps followed behind. Soft, deliberate, always one step too close. A few guests claimed to see a woman in black wandering the halls at night, a flickering candle in her hand, her lips moving as if whispering instructions only she could hear. The house stands today, an endless maze of grief and guilt. 160 rooms of sorrow frozen in time. People say when the wind blows through the corridors just right, you can still hear faint hammering in the walls. Others swear they've heard Sarah's voice whispering from behind locked doors. Keep building, never stop. Because maybe the spirits never left. Maybe they're still searching. And maybe, just maybe, Sarah Winchester is still there too, wandering her endless house, trapped in her own creation, forever trying to escape the very souls she invited in. Soft piano fades, distant hammer echo once more, then silence. The Winchester Mystery House, built for the dead, and still alive with their whispers.